So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever this finds you in this space-time. And I want to start by just dropping the seeds of letting be, by which I mean letting yourself be as you are. Sometimes we can come to meditation with very earnest, very serious parts, and that's welcome here. But I wonder whether there's also space for just letting yourself be as you are, without needing to acquire anything, fix anything, change or heal anything. Perhaps allow yourself to imagine that you're whole and complete right now, and not separate from presence, from being. Just see if you can spend a moment attending to your body, however the body wants to be. And by no means do you have to be sat down. You can move, you can do Tai Chi, you can do a little bit of gentle yoga as you listen. You can get into a lovely pose that allows your hips to open. And then 5 minutes later, you can switch. You're under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. This is how fluid. This is how fluid all of this is. So allow yourself to really tune into the breath. And see if you can notice any resistance to how the breath is, or any parts that want to fix the breath. Make it be something other than what it is now. And this is a really valuable practice. Noticing where we resist. Noticing where we resist that contraction in the neck, some tightness in the chest, some tingling butterflies in the tummy. Maybe notice how we even resist letting the tummy be soft and expanded. We seem to walk around with our tummies sucked in about 1/2 inch permanently. Why is that? Who's holding on to that? Which part? And so whatever's happening for you right now, or at any moment in time, is an opportunity to really see which parts seem to be dominant. So any form of resistance is a trailhead. And sometimes we can follow that trailhead and find something at the end of that. Sometimes we are too tired, and that's fine. We can park that for a different day, a more resourced day. And sometimes, whenever we notice any resistance within, instead of following the trailhead and thinking about what's going on, allowing the body to expand deeper and deeper into whatever contraction. Now that sounds like a paradox. How can I expand into a contraction? By not resisting it, by not resisting the contraction itself. And in that way, the body whispers to us its wisdom. Which may or may not match the narrative, thinking, meaning making, storytelling, analyzing, fixing parts that tend to reside in the head or somewhere close to the head. And if you've been sat here for a while or in a pose or whatever's been going on, just check in if this is still serving you. Just the posture you're sat in or lying down. And this is a form of internal consent. We might have parts that really feel that during meditation you should be sat cross-legged with a straight, upright back. And that might be the dominant part. Are there different parts that might want something else? So at this point, inviting you to move, maybe round your shoulders, and then bring your shoulder blades together. Maybe the neck wants to go back, stretching your throat. Gentle rolls with the neck, one way and the other. Maybe a little circular motion with the hips. And really adding plenty of breath. Breath is like the lubricant. And how's that? So there is a question that I'd like you to have a little think about. And the question is this: where do thoughts come from? You might notice that in that moment, all sorts of thoughts flood in from somewhere, perhaps somewhere inside your head.
It seems you're muted.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. So, just as we're thinking about all these topics, about thoughts, what thought belongs to you? I wonder if you heard me say this yet. If you're near a friend, and you don't even have to be close by, and you think the same thought, something that Carl Jung termed synchronicity. Whose thought was it? Where did it come from? And you might have a part that answers back and says, well, of course, it was I that thought it. So then the next natural question is, who is I? Or who am I? Are you the thoughts? Are you the parts? Are you the awareness that encompasses all those things, that witnesses all those things? So many of us immediately claim our thoughts as our own. And then the thoughts, if they are claimed as our own, must be then true as to who we are. But if we take a moment to really step back and look at the thoughts that are moving through the awareness of self, we might notice that they're at once both ours and not ours. And thoughts seem to have an energetic pull. We seem to gravitate to thoughts. We can attach to all sorts of thoughts. And there's some thoughts that we resist. Some thoughts that frighten us. Some thoughts seem to be stuck on a repeating loop. Sometimes we say this: if the thoughts are yours, do you know what your next thought is going to be? Or is it just like a babbling brook or a busy river? It just runs along. Just notice as these questions are asked, that we're curious about the source of the thoughts, or whether any one single part can claim ownership of any thoughts. And notice especially where we resist them or where we fear them. So again, whatever we resist, tends to become more contracted, more knotted. And more persistent too. Maybe you've never been asked this question. Or maybe you yourself haven't asked this previously. This might feel a little bit strange. There may be parts that feel a bit confused, uncertain. Just notice how your inner world responds when we gently question where thinking comes from. And notice how the body's been during this time. Notice if there's any tension in the body as we inquire. And notice how the breath is. The breath can be such a lovely barometer of the inner world. It can serve as a trailhead in its own right. And just as we were asking these questions, what I'd like to offer is that there's no one right answer. Perspective is one of the P's of self. And perspective shifts. It's a fluid thing. If you like, when I ask this question, I'm asking it with the prior knowing that it's really an unsolvable puzzle. There is no right answer here. Or what I really want to say is that the right answer is the one that is here and now, serving a purpose. You're under no obligation to maintain that answer for the rest of your life. So none of these are trick questions. None of these are questions that are seeking that perfect end result. It's in our ability to maintain the flexibility. It's in our ability to, at some points, step away to get a more of a panoramic bird's eye view of self. And at other times, we can focus in a little bit closer to get a more detailed view. A view that is more tinged with the expertise and the wisdom of a part. Knowing that all along, that view is never separate from self. So if I was to ask that question once more, where do thoughts come from? And whose are they? Any possible answer that's landing either in your body, in your mind, in your heart, in your soul, is true from that point of view. And this is what's so beautiful about the IFS model, is that it allows that part to self flexibility. The founder of IFS says that IFS really lets us be the bodhisattva of our own psyche. And I really feel that that's true. It's not dogmatically attached to only one view. This is the both and. It really so eloquently deals with the paradox of the both and. And maybe, if it feels right, see if you can reach inside, really cast your gaze and all the different parts, and see if you can validate each one. Let it know that it's welcome, that it's safe here, that its perspective matters. And every part, just like in an orchestra, every part plays its beautiful, unique tune. And when we initially come to healing, any form of healing really, but especially IFS, we can find that without a capable, confident, loving, wise leader, we have a whole bunch of soloists, parts that are playing their own chords, their own rhythm. And with the help of self, we can find that we can make these beautiful melodies and whatever voices, thoughts, burdens we may have taken on. When self really comes to help us to heal all of that, we find that we play our unique tune. Something that expresses our core essence, who we are. so beautifully, so sweetly. And each part is absolutely vital for this. We cannot have an orchestra with just the brass instruments. Every part, once unburdened, shines the light of self, reflects the beauty of self ever so clearly. So we find we radiate the 8 C's of self. Confidence, creativity, courage, compassion, clarity, curiosity, connection, and calm. And self energy is contagious. Just as tuning forks start to vibrate, so do others start to vibrate with our self energy. And one by one by one by one, we're spreading self. This is really tapping into self as a wave, this transpersonal aspect. See if you can really tune into some of this sweetness of self, however small. That no matter what parts, what thoughts, what feelings, that there's always a self here. So as we come to the end of this meditation, if it feels right, if you can send gratitude for any parts that have joined you on this journey here. And let them know that we're going to transition into a sharing circle. And before we do that, see if you can begin to become more aware of your own breath, more consciously, the body, feet, the surface you're sat on. And finally, the room you are in. Maybe extending gratitude for this space. Now I'm going to stop recording